Hello, let's see how to create a texture in watercolors using paper. Okay, so this is watercolor paper that I'm using for creating the texture. So you can see that you have some texture in this watercolor paper, right? So this is Arches cold pressed 300 GSM paper. So when you say cold pressed, the cold pressed paper has some sort of texture in it. Okay, if it is a hot pressed paper, the texture will be very less, and if it is a rough paper, the texture will be even more than that. So cold pressed paper has medium texture, and this it is how you see in this video now. Okay, so I'm going to use Arches cold pressed 300 GSM paper, and I have taken a few other Arches cold pressed 300 GSM paper. So this is the same paper, but I've taken some cuttings out of it. I'll show you how we can use these papers to create a texture that we want, right? So let's see. First let's paint this paper. Okay, I'm going to paint it with some watercolor. I've taken some watercolor here and I will use it to paint this area. Let me take a bigger brush. Yeah. Simply paint the paper using any watercolor paint. What I'm using here is Mijello Mission Gold watercolor paint. It's a professional brand of watercolor paint. Okay, fine. I have painted this. Now let me see how I can create a texture with this. Okay, with this paper I'm going to create an impression on this paper. Okay, so here you go. Take it out, see how it is looking. This is the kind of texture that you get. Okay, and it can vary every time. You need not get the same kind of texture. If the amount of water and paint in it is more, maybe you will get a different kind of texture. Let's add more water to it and see. Okay, see, I'm adding a lot of water now, and I want to see how it is going to come. So basically it is all about experimentation. You can try out different ways of creating texture and document it. See, I have added a lot of water. Now let's see with this what kind of impression it will create. I'm going in now. See, it is, since we had lot of texture, I mean lot of water there, it created more evenly painted area. Okay, so let's see one more. I didn't paint anything extra there. It will have less water now. See, if there is less water, it is creating this kind of a texture. If there is more water, it is creating this kind of thing. Okay, this is one way of using a watercolor paper to create texture on watercolor paper. Now let's see another way of using it. Okay, so I'll keep it aside. This is another sheet of watercolor paper that I have. We will use this area. So this time what I'm going to do is I will paint the area first. So this is my painted area. You can use any color that you want for these experimentations. Okay, now I have painted the area. Then what I do, I can take another watercolor paper and just create an impression on it. Let's see how it goes. Okay, let me take it out. This is how it is looking. There was more water here. Let's take another area, we can paint another area, and we will wait for it to dry a little bit. Okay, this was quite wet when we applied the paper. Then this is how it turns out. Now let's paint an area. and then wait for it to dry for some time. So depending upon the wetness level, the thickness of the paint, the results that you get can vary. All that you have to do is be familiar with what you can expect when you are doing something. Again, you will not get the exact same result with these techniques the second time you do it, but you can get similar results. Okay, so again I painted an area. Now I don't want so much of water here, so I will wait for this area to dry a little bit. Meanwhile, I can show you here how you create texture with just brush and paint, but this is not a modern technique, it is a traditional technique you might already know. So if you take less paint in your brush, so since I already painted this area, this brush has less paint, and then if I do like this, you see I'm getting some textured form of result. See that? How is this texture formed? Because this watercolor paper has textured surface. So when we apply paint like this, that texture is creating this kind of an effect. If you want to paint a water reflection with lot of shiny reflections, right, light reflections on the surface, you can actually use this kind of a technique. Okay, it looks like a water reflection. Okay, now I think this is quite dry. Let me take a fresh piece of paper and do the same thing here. Okay, and take it out. This is the kind of result I'm getting. Again, I can do it, okay? Because there is no rules and regulations for these textures, right? Whatever you want, you can try and see what is the result you're getting. You can try a combination of traditional technique plus modern technique. It is all up to your creativity, how you want to get different results. See, now this is how you got it, okay? I went again and then did the same thing. It is lifting more, I think. See, I got this kind of a result. Let's let me show you closer how are these textures looking like. Okay, got it. So this is how we can use watercolor paper itself, a textured watercolor paper, to create texture on your watercolor painting.